everyone, I'm Aaron. That's my identical twin brother, Adam. I'm going brick by brick today. Adam's going step by step. Why, you might ask? Well, we're talking about rebuilding from the ashes, basically, here. So you're in a baseball brouhaha, which means we're having a cup of coffee. Adam's already into that cup of coffee. We're getting after it. So, Adam, what do we have on tap today for our trivia?
Well, when you're building from the ashes, you got to drink coffee early and often.
Yeah.
You got to keep that energy up. So we're talking about teams who have been historically bad and then coming back on the scene. So in the modern era, since 1901, 23 teams have finished with over 100 losses and a winning percentage below 300. That's
That's
not
bad.
good. That's bad. Which team then had the best record the following season? Thinking, let's go. Let's turn this ship around. And this one's inspired by this year's Pirates. They're not technically part of this grouping, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But they finished with 100 losses last season and are off to a historic start this year, winning lots of games. Um, so here we go. Here's our question with our answer choices. Which 100 loss team had the best record the following year? The 29 Phillies, the 1936 Boston Bees, who were the Braves the year before, the 63 Mets, or the 2004 Tigers. Aaron, what do you got?
Yeah, I went 2004 Tigers here because I know they went to the World Series in 2006, and so I figured they had to make they had to make some progress there. They were bad in '03, 119 losses, I believe, is what they went on a big run at the end of the season, won 3 out of 4 to keep them out of 120 loss territory. So I went '04 Tigers here.
And I went with the Mets here because they are the only team who have reached the 120 loss territory at 40 at 120 in 1962. And so I figured, even if they're in the realm of normal wins and losses and still have a very losing season, it's got to be a lot better than 1962. But let's see.
Hmm.
What do we got? The correct answer is the 2004 Tigers. Well done, Aaron. They finished 72 and 90. The Phillies and Boston Bees both had 71 wins their next season, and the Mets, they won 11 more games to get to 51 wins, but still lost 111 games. So,
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, they climbed the ladder fairly quickly. All things considered, they won it in '69. So
yeah, they did the baby steps thing, building it
they,
brick by brick by brick. So,
hmm
back to our Pirates who give us hope in this land of bleakness.
yes.
Um, so, the Pirates, again, they don't really fall in this category perfectly because they won 38% of their games, even though they lost 100. But it's still not good. But this year they're off to a hot start, or they were at 20 and 8. They lost 7 in a row after that. But
Hmm.
starting 20 and 8 after a 100 loss season is historic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, only 3 other teams since 1961 have won at least 17 out of their first 25 games, just like the Pirates did, after losing 100. So, I mean, other teams have started hot, but after losing 100, that's pretty. It's tough to turn it that quickly. The Pirates are on pace to win about 92 games this year. That would be a record for any team that had lost 100 the year prior.
Yeah. And here's the map to the treasure. They're starting out
Hmm.
spring training there on the left, and they follow the route all the way to X marks the spot at hopefully 92 wins and a playoff appearance. Only one 100 loss team has made the playoffs the next year. That was the Twins. I forget which year,
Was
but
that
they
90? Was that the 91
no,
version?
it was
Oh,
like the early 2000s. They lost in
mm,
the wild card round, the one
okay.
game wild card lost, and part of their long postseason losing streak.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, tough one.
Uh,
So I'm gonna jump in. Let's do it. We're going to talk about the Phillies here because the Phillies have had some historical struggles. So we were talking about this kind of beforehand. It really starts to make sense why if you followed kind of baseball history, the Phillies were the first to 10,000 losses over their organizational history. And, you figured, they've been around a long time. Well, that coupled with some really bad stretches. Um, so they had 6 100 loss seasons in 8 years from 1938 to 1945. That's 770 total losses. That'll get you nearly a tenth of the way there. Most losses in that span by over 100 games. That's a big gap. They averaged 96 per season, a high of 111, and the best they finished was 64, 90, and tack on 3 ties on there to help with the winning percentage.
Yeah. Um, and so that span of time, so at that time, there were 154 games in a season. So 8 seasons is 1,232 games. So wanted to look up, is 770 losses, where does that fit in historical futility? Well, this run of 8 seasons is not even the worst of the Phillies. So the Phillies have the worst span over 1,232 games by quite a bit. Their worst span was
Mhm.
830 losses out of 1,232 games.
Yeah,
In and in this, which means they won 402
402
games
games.
over 8 seasons. That's real tough. Um,
Mhm.
and in this era, from about 1935 to 1946, the Phillies not only own this worst span of 830 games, they own the second worst and the third worst and the fourth and the fifth and the 10th and the 20th and the 100th, all the way to the 521 worst spans in history, all belong to the Phillies. The first 521.
Yeah,
That's a rough go.
you figure that somebody else would sneak in there, and I think a couple did eventually. And then the Phillies, they said, "No, no, no, we'll take that back."
Yeah. They ran off about 60 more.
Yep. No. Oh, so we're talking about baby steps. Yeah, look at that. The Phillies can't even get the grammar right even. I mean, they're struggling right now. I mean, you get in a losing streak like that, you can't think straight. Trying to win a game. But we're doing baby steps. Where you got to build that thing brick by brick. I mean, literally. I mean, I think about the Houston Astros. They're great right now. They tore that thing down to the studs, man.
Yeah.
They were bad for several years. 23 teams made this list here that we're talking about. Almost every team made gains in either the win or the loss column, 21 out of 23. So we had one team, the 1938 Phillies, finished 45 and 105, and then followed that up with the 45 and 106, 1939. But Adam, you have something here about a team that they found out a way to get worse.
They sure did. So they're living on the next year is our year, or maybe
Next
next
year's,
year
yeah.
is our year. So the 1915 Philadelphia A's followed up their 43 and 109 season with a mystifying 36 and 117 record. They didn't just get a little worse; they got a lot worse when the year before
Mhm.
was already as close to the bottom as you could get. So this team has the worst winning percentage of all time at 235, 13 points worse than the next closest team.
That's a rough go. That's a rough go. So I mean and back then it was a little different back then because you didn't trade and there wasn't free agency and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times you're just stuck with who you got, and I mean, and we're Mariners fans. We've been through some tough stretches where you're like, your team's like, you know, 60 and 100 and there's nothing in the minor leagues. You're like, hey, we got one guy down in single A, 7 years away.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to be in that spot. And we talked about the Pirates before. Pirates fans have been there. A's fans are there now. It's a rough road right now. So
Yeah, but they got to write their story. And speaking of, it's story time, and we're coming at you with building the brick by brick of our high school team.
yeah, Adam and I both made varsity our freshman year. I started. Adam started some, um, but we were pretty mediocre. We went about 500, and then lost in the first round of the playoffs, which was a decent year. We were decent, but not great, as the record indicates. We were mediocre. The next year, we had a great year. We were really good. We hit the cover off the ball. We went 17-3. Two of those losses were against the eventual state champion, who was in our league. So 16-1 against everybody else, and then the wheels came off we had a 1-game playoff, kind of like to determine seeding basically, but that was the start of the playoffs. We've talked about this before. It's embarrassing. We made 11 errors as a team. I had 3 of them myself, and the wheels came off and we lost. And we just had played the worst game you could ever play at the worst possible time, and we lost. We bounced back the next year and made one of the deeper runs that our school had ever made in baseball. We were a game short of the Final Four, and had a good season, and then from there finished second our senior year. Didn't quite get all the way to the title, but we had a good run.
Yeah, some stats for that run too. Our sophomore year when we came up short in a way where it felt like we shouldn't have. Our team batting average was 420. I only hit 280 that year. I was trying out a new heavier bat. That didn't work for me. But I bounced back with the team the next year when we made that deeper run. But also our sophomore year, that game where we made 11 errors, lost that first round game, matched our run total. We scored 11 runs, still lost.
Yep.
Because 11 errors leads to 18 runs by the other team.
7-run defeat.
Yeah. You made 3 errors. I made 2. Everybody on the team except 2 players made at least 1 error.
Yeah.
So that's what it'll do. But the next year we are hungry and we built it back brick by brick, step by step, until we almost got there to the state championship our last year. Just fell a couple runs short.
Yeah, made a furious rally at the end of the game, and guy makes a shoestring catch, and that'll do it. So
that'll do it.
Well, we've step by stepped enough and brick by bricked enough. So we're gonna head on out of here today. Thanks for joining us. A special thanks to Baseball Reference, MLB StatHead, and Saber Metrics, bringing some stats. Thanks, everybody. If you have a burning question, drop it in the comments below or find us on Twitter and tweet at us. There, we love to hear from you. Like, subscribe. We're back at it again tomorrow, every single day, right here. Hope you join us. Thanks, everybody.